Building your core values hierarchy. Take out your lab notebook and settle into a comfortable position and take a few of those deep breaths. All right, now during this experiment, we'll continue building on the work you've done in the last two experiments. At this point, you have a list of values that are consistent with how you want to be remembered and how you want to live your life. Today, we're going to go one step further by reviewing and selecting those values that are the most important for you. And we'll refer to these as being among your core values. Once you've identified these core values, we'll use them to help you build your own personal core values hierarchy. And we'll end by reflecting on the implications of this hierarchy for the life you truly want to live. So, to begin, let's take some time to review what you wrote down during the first Being Remembered experiment. And if you didn't write anything down, I strongly recommend going back and re listening to that experiment and writing down your observations and insights. Okay, now as you read through your notes and insights and reflections from the Being Remembered experiment in your lab notebook, become aware of any patterns or themes that might be present. Perhaps certain values that came up more than once as you heard the people you care about speak about you and the life that you lived. And if you notice any themes or patterns, you might circle or put a star next to these values that really seem most important for you in terms of how you want to be remembered. And as always, taking time to pause the audio now until you're finished. Okay. And now take some time to actually rewrite these most important values as a new list for this current experiment. And trust me, this is going to be worth your time. So go ahead and pause the audio now until you're finished rewriting out those most important values. All right. And so now that we've reviewed the Being Remembered experiment, let's also take some time to review what you wrote down during the second Discovering Your Values experiment. So once you're there, and as you look at those values you wrote down as being particularly meaningful to you, I'm going to challenge you to circle or put a star next to the values you consider to be most important to you in terms of the life you want to live. So, although all these values are important to you, or you wouldn't have written them down, really challenge yourself to select only those values you consider to be central to the person you most want to be and how you want to live your life. Once again, pausing the audio at this time until you're finished circling and starring those values. Okay, and now once again, take some time to rewrite these most important values to your new list of core values for this current experiment. So, again, pausing the audio now until you're finished writing. Okay, now you have a new consolidated list of values that you consider to be most important for you. And next, we're going to use this list to build your core values hierarchy. So take some time to read over this new list of your most important values. And as you're reading over this list, I'm throwing you a new challenge here. And that's to actually rank these values from your absolutely most important top number one core value. You can write a little number one next to that value and then keep going to select your second most important number two core value, writing number two next to that value, and then continue this process until you reach number 10 or until you run out of core values if you have less than 10 values listed. So, in this way, you'll end up with a final list of 10 core values ranked in a hierarchy from number one, your most important number one core value, to number 10. This will likely be a bit challenging, so please take your time. And as you're going through looking over and ranking these values, you might reflect on whether there are specific experiences in your life that might lead you to choose this specific value and to put it in this specific order relative to all of the other values on your current list. And as I'm fond of recommending, do give yourself permission to be completely honest with yourself here about what's most important to you, how you want to be remembered, the life you want to live, and pause the audio at this time to rank these core values from number one to number 10. All right. And finally, here, take a little more time to write down this final ranked list in order, starting with your number one core value on top and ending with your number 10 core value. And possibly include a brief description of each value if you wrote those down during the Discovering Your Values experiment. So you'll have all this info in one location. Again, it's worth it. So pause the audio at this time until you've finished writing that down. All right. So congrats on building your core values hierarchy. So, as you might realize, it's incredibly rare for people to take this amount of time to reflect on what matters most to them, the life they want to live, how they want to be remembered, and then to rank these resulting core values in order of importance. And as we're going to see in our next experiment on minding the gaps, your time and effort here will really open up many new options for deepening your relationships and living a more authentic, values based life. But for now, as we bring this experiment to an end and you go about transitioning to the rest of your day, it can be really interesting and useful to become aware of specific instances where one of your core values in your hierarchy appears to come into conflict with another of your core values. So, this could include situations where acting in a way that's consistent with one of your core values seems either inconsistent or incompatible with another one of your core values. A fairly common apparent conflict can exist if someone values being honest and they also value being kind to other people. This can exist as an apparent values conflict between honesty and benevolence. And it can also be important to notice that by ranking your core values into a hierarchy, like you did in today's experiment, some of these internal values conflicts can be a lot easier to navigate and also to resolve. So, for example, if you rank the core value of devoting time to having a happy, loving family above another core value focused more on achievement, like the value of wealth, which might require spending more time at work, you may notice yourself being much more confident if you decide to attend your daughter's school play this upcoming Friday night rather than complying with your boss's last minute request for you to work late. Well, what if your boss says she'll fire you if you don't work late on Friday night? So, as we can see, values conflicts can be complicated. Your hierarchy might shift in that situation. And a certain degree of flexibility is needed to effectively navigate these conflicts, depending on the specific situation and the specific context. Are there certain situations at work or at school or when you're with certain friends or family members when you often feel conflicts between one or more of your core values? If so, how do these conflicts typically get resolved? And how might your core values hierarchy influence how these conflicts are resolved in the future?